Put some respect on their names. That's right. A couple Toronto Raptors have been insanely disrespected by the franchise, being called out to move. And heck, even on this podcast, at least one of them has been criticized a lot. And tonight, going up against a Dallas Mavericks team that is pretty elite. They've been amazing this season. There were some questions about that squad coming into the year. How will Luka and Kyrie fit? How will the squad sort of gel with Grant Williams coming in? You know, the lack of Christian Wood, all that type of stuff. The Mavericks have been amazing. And while they gave a big punch to the Toronto Raptors in the first half, Toronto was able to really dominate down the stretch at the end of this one. And this is a huge W for Toronto. And a couple guys really stood out, really played well. And the first guy that I've been a stan on, I've been a guy that's been supporting, been roasted by you guys for thinking he's a quality basketball player that we shouldn't trade. And tonight, at least, he's had an up and down season for sure, but we had an up tonight and made me feel really good watching him play. And obviously that is Pascal Siakam, who in this game against the Dallas Mavericks, he's the guy that's getting the most credit, at least in this one, even though OG also dominated in this game as well. But 31 points for Pascal, 12 assists, 5 assists, which almost feels low because there was a lot of moments where he just made some great decisions based on how the Dallas Mavericks were defending him. He was getting in that paint, that high post area, making some really nice dimes and dishes to his teammates. But overall, Pascal, an amazing game, efficient game from the field, was getting ones, missed his threes, all of his threes weren't going down, so he did it, scoring in the lane, those midi areas, buckets at the rim, just doing Pascal Siakam things, playing well on defense, really doing everything out there on the court, what you're expecting from a guy that's been an all-star, been an all-NBA player, been an NBA champion. And if we have Scottie Barnes playing the way he has at the start of the season, dominating game in, game out. Tonight was a little bit of a slower game for Scottie Barnes relative to what he's been doing this entire season. Was ridiculous himself. We'll dive into him after. But if Scottie Barnes continues this level of production that he's been on to start off the season, OG doesn't even need to have big scoring night like he did in this one, but can clamp down to Luka Doncic on the defensive end, the way he did in this game without fouling and all that type of stuff. And then we have a Pascal Siakam showing up to the level he did in this one. I mean, when we face good teams and we've had Scottie Barnes just be the new and improved Scottie Barnes, and then Pascal just look like, his average self from last season tonight, and obviously against the Bucks, it's been a little bit elevated from his average from last season. But if we're getting those type of performances, those type of players, this team is going to be elite. It is going to be a team that we can face up against one of the top teams, a squad that was undefeated against the Eastern Conference coming into this game. If we can do this, if we have those two guys humming, we are going to be a challenge for even the league's best teams, because Scottie Barnes can take the load, he can facilitate, he can do everything out there on the basketball court. And then Pascal Siakam, when he doesn't have that complete brunt of the defense locked in on him possession after possession, he has a bit more free reign, even when he's not hitting his shots, but he can work the paint, get those touches. And I like that, since he was rolling this game, he got the most touches in this game. So that's a positive to see from the Raptor system. We still had the ball humming, we had the ball swinging, but when players are cooking, when they're rolling, the ball ends up in their hands. And that also led to OG Anunoby getting a lot of touches in this game, 26 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Surprisingly, no steals and blocks, but some elite defense on guys like Luke, on guys on the other Dallas Mavericks side. But again, 19 and 17, 15 and 25 from Pascal and OG. Efficient shooting nights, 3 of 8 from behind the 3-point line as well. OG's been hitting the 3 ball like crazy in recent games, but our top guys, we have ridiculous talent on this Toronto Raptors team. It just all has to come together. It has to work. And, we are seeing it in the game against the Bucks, in the second half against the Spurs, when the Spurs are kind of rolling in their most recent game. And then now against the Dallas Mavericks, that are one of the league's most red hot teams. This Raptor squad is good if things are all put together. And with all the hate, with all the flack that's been thrown the way of Pascal Siakam, I just want to say on this video, put some respect on Pascal Siakam's name. I'm seeing too many people say trade him, get rid of the guy. And I know at the start of the season when we were losing games and things looked hopeless and desperate, I get the frustration there, but we can't be giving Pascal Siakam up for pennies on the dollar. I want to bring him back. I want him extended. I want him in the Toronto Raptors team. If Scottie Barnes is going to take that leap, Pascal is proven as a championship number 2 option. Doesn't make sense to sort of let him walk. And performances like this, obviously we want him to be more consistent, but performances like this, validate my love for Pascal, him as a player, him as just a Raptors legend. That's frankly what he is. He's one of the greatest Toronto Raptors of all time at this point. I want to keep him with the organization. But talked about him, talked about OG. We'll talk about the rest of the starters and some interesting things we saw in this game. But the bench was really what Pascal, OG, the starting lineups have been pretty good for the Toronto Raptors. Our top guys have been kind of doing their thing. Again, it hasn't been perfect by any means, but the bench has been the biggest question mark about the Toronto Raptors really over the past 3 seasons. And tonight, again, there's 2 guys in the thumbnail when I said put some respect on their name, and Malachi Flynn is the first guy I want to discuss. Because you look at the box score and you might not say, hey, Flynn was dominant. He wasn't dominant by any means, but you might not say he's great, he's that elite of a player, but he is looking a lot more confident out there on the basketball court. He's taking shots without hesitation. There's moments where Malachi Flynn in the past, he's on limited runs, limited minutes, heck, even times at the beginning of this year where Flynn would just be in a situation where, I haven't shot the ball that much, and I'm you can see it in his head. You can see it in his brain. I'm going to shoot at this possession. The ball's going to be in my hands. I don't care if it's contested. I don't care what. I'm going to shoot it. He's made a decision made up before he sees what the defense is giving him and all these types of things. Because that's kind of how you got to play when you're in limited run. You have opportunities, limited opportunities. If you want to earn those minutes, sometimes you got to take those risky shots, and you're not that confident that the ball will get back to you or you'll hit your shots in the flow of the game. But tonight, and as games have gone along this season, Flynn has looked more and more comfortable out there on the basketball court and done a pretty decent job on the defensive end as well. No visual sort of lapses on the defensive end I saw, at least in this game, from my defensive analysis on Malachi Flynn. I've been looking at it particularly because obviously Flynn, the jumper is fluid, whether it's going in or not. It looks gorgeous. He can facilitate for sure, even though there's moments where he does force some passes and get some turnovers and things along those lines. The defense is really the thing I think that's going to get Flynn on the court, and he's looking confident, looking energetic, looking engaged on that end as well. So put some respect on Pascal, Siakam, Malachi Flynn. This is a positive game out here in this one, so making me feel good along those lines. And then Scottie Barnes. Again, we talked about the starters. We talked about everyone. Scottie Barnes, it might feel like a down game for Scottie, especially with the slower first half, the 4-15 shooting from the field, the no threes knocked down after he's been splashing them in recent games. But the crazy thing is, a down game for Scottie right now is still 14 points, which is a lot, but 14 rebounds on top of it, 7 assists on top of it, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. Folks, whoever picked up Scottie Barnes in fantasy this year, if he's on your fantasy team, if you could finesse someone in your leagues to, sort of look at those numbers, pick up Scottie Barnes because he is filling up the box score, even on off nights, even on games where he's switched on to Luka at times, where he's focused on defense, where, the shots, especially from deep, aren't going in. He remains engaged. He remains elite. And this is exactly what the development we want to see out of Scottie Barnes. And Barnes has been the brunt of the discussion amongst the Toronto Raptors. So I won't dive into him too much in this video, but man, the way he's passed in the facility, and then even when things aren't going right, when things aren't going smoothly, the Raptors are down by a little bit, he continues to play the game the right way, as he always has. And that's always been my favorite part of Scottie Barnes' game. He always plays with the right mentality, even if he could be a little bit more aggressive at times. Scottie Barnes always makes the right dish, makes the right play, has a great handle, has a great defender, just all around elite, and the scoring has improved to such a level now. He's on that star precipice. So great news there for the Toronto Raptors. And Dennis Schroeder, once again, we talked about him in the last video, but 18 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, a block. Just defense strong against Luka Doncic. I mean, well, he didn't guard Luka, but Luka only had 11 and 26. A lot of OG and Scottie's doing 210 from the 3-point line. And Kyrie, didn't dominate in this one. Obviously had his moments. Kyrie's a very talented player, 22 points and all that type of stuff. But I thought Schroeder and those guys, the team, did a really good job defensively, just handling the firepower that the Dallas Mavericks kind of have out there. So that's huge for Dennis Schroeder. And then I kind of got away from the bench as I was talking there. But Chris Boucher got some run in this one, 15 minutes after not really getting a lot of opportunities. And 4 of 4 from the field, 1 of 1 from the 3-point line, 10 points. Chris Boucher is a legitimate NBA player. He's proven it season in, season out. Again, the Raptors are in a really weird spot with their rotations, especially when Precious comes back, but Pirtle's minutes were dropped significantly, and it kind of makes sense given the lineups of the Dallas Mavericks and the style of offense they like to run. They have a lot of guys sort of spacing the floor around Luka Doncic, so when he drives in, those 3 shooters are there. So Pirtle can kind of get a little bit of exposed, even though he is mobile for a big man center, right? He can get exposed against offenses like that. So Chris Boucher, who's always sprint into those closeouts for 3-point shots, is a little bit of a better fit on the defensive end, and then also brought on the offensive end, which is great to see. And then Gary Trent Jr. also had a little bit of a bounce back game in this one. I don't want to say he's fully back. It wasn't a dominant performance for Gary, but hit 4 threes in this game, which was nice, and then 6 of 11 from the field. Nothing really else out there in the score, just 16 points, but again, Gary Trent Jr. is going to need to be scoring off the bench for the Toronto Raptors to be good. We need some firepower. And tonight, we got 16, 8, and 10 there from our bench. So what's that? 24, 34 points. That will get it done, given how loaded the starting lineup for the Toronto Raptors can be on any given night. So that's a huge positive. And Otto Porter Jr., even though the threes didn't go down, I just like the presence he brings out there on the court as a calming presence and all that type of stuff. And Grady Dick, only 7 minutes. I like that he's still in the rotation despite the fact he's not playing the greatest, especially knocking down shots. Had a couple turnovers in this game as well. I want to make sure Grady Dick, at least in games where he's struggling, still gets these 7 minutes. It's extremely valuable for a young player. I mean, he's only 19 years old. He's an elite shooter. And man, even though the shots aren't going down, I just really like how he plays. Even if this game wasn't that great, but from the eye test, from what Grady Dick can actually do. So hopefully he doesn't get buried on the bench. I mean, Malachi Flynn, he wasn't great to start off this season. Was not good, was not great in preseason. And then now things are slowly coming together because Darko's instilling that confidence in him, making sure things can sort of work out. So I'm happy with how Darko's been coaching. The final thing, I guess, would be a little bit controversial in terms of Darko's decision making is the 21 minutes from Pirtle. Again, Ben Taylor was horrific with fouls, and the reffing in this one was atrocious. So it's a part of it, but again, Boucher stepped up. Pirtle's obviously going to get minutes. The defense is split, and I don't want to dive too much into Ben Taylor. Fred VanVleet said it best last season. Did a terrible job. Got fined. Took the fine for the entire Toronto Raptors fan base. Something we're going to have to live with in the future. Ben Taylor's just never going to like the Raptors. But, folks, massive W here for Toronto. Later game. Recording this at 2 a.m. my time, but really happy with this W from Toronto. Let me know what you guys think about the Raptors squad. Again, if you made it this far, subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 30,000 subs. It mean the world to me if you guys hit that sub button. But anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.